So before I begin, I really want to talk about the new cover of the My Hero Academia Volume 25. It just came out today, like we got to see the cover for the first time from what I'm aware of, and I just really want to talk about it before I get into talking about this chapter, because even though the chapter's amazing, I know you guys want me to talk about it, and it's, like I said, it's a really good chapter. There's a lot to discuss. I just really want to talk about the cover briefly because of just how amazing it is. So Volume 25. Here it is. You can see it for yourself. I might have already shown it, but the cover is truly breathtaking. It is absolutely beautiful when you just take a moment to really just admire the cover art of what Horikoshi Sensei has done. It's very simplistic when you look at it. The color, for instance, it's purple. You have Shigaraki on the front as the only character, but it's the simplicity in the way it really conveys one big emotion that the arc that this volume took place in tried to convey, and that was freedom/destruction. And when you look at the cover, you see disintegration. You see literally the title itself disintegrating. You see Shigaraki's entire coat disintegrating, which happened within the arc. It's just overall a very beautiful looking cover. The laugh that he had, which kind of symbolized Shigaraki's freedom, that he finally wasn't the same person anymore. There's just so much to be said about this cover, and I love it. I love the simplicity of it, and it's really just amazing to me that I really am tempted to say that this is probably the best cover yet of My Hero Academia. I mean, don't get me wrong, Volume 20, Volume 21, 22, etc., you know, all of them are really good volumes, but this volume really just speaks so much about the emotions that the Villain Academia arc was trying to convey, and I really respect Horikoshi for that. He did such a fantastic job with the cover, and I cannot wait to pick up my own copy of the volume when it does eventually come out in English. But, okay, enough of that though. Let's, talk about this chapter. This was a heavy chapter for a lot of reasons. Endeavor has been put into a spot that I don't think anyone necessarily deserves. It's something that actually happens in real life, and I don't think many really think about it too much. And the situation Endeavor's in is probably something that is very common in My Hero Academia as well, and I want to get into all these details. So, to start off, let's just talk about real life first. Why this is kind of just dark, depressing, and something that really relates with what happens in today's society. I remember seeing a news story about like a month and a half, 2 months ago actually, of a dude that was pretty much walking in front of a cop is like, do it, and all that, and it's depressing. And the person was walking in front of a cop. This was a real story I saw, and it's scary because people actually do what Ending was doing within this chapter. For instance, walking up to someone in the position of power that has technically authority of self-defense and illegally take you out, you know, wanting to just use you as a way to end themselves. And that's basically what Ending was doing. He was trying to make Endeavor be the one to pull the trigger instead of him doing it himself. It's very cowardly, it's messed up, and in a way, they're ruining not just their lives, their family's lives, their friends' lives, but also the individual that has to do the act, for instance, the cop, or let's say Endeavor. It's just extremely selfish and disgusting on so many levels, and that's what makes this chapter super dark and depressing, is because it's exactly what could happen and what does happen in real life. And I feel like this is probably not the first time something like this has technically happened in the My Hero Academia verse, and it's kind of something I've been talking about for a while, honestly, like some of the things that did happen within the chapter, and that is villains getting out of prison, jail, etc., and coming back to target the heroes that put them into jail. Because, think about this. If you're an evil individual and you're caught for killing, etc., and you manage to somehow get out of jail, because that's kind of how the system works, you know, obviously they're going to be angry with the hero or whoever put them behind bars and get vengeance. And this is something that I've always wondered about, because we know that heroes are constantly locking up villains left and right. People are getting locked up, and obviously they're angry. They want to get back at those that did them wrong, etc., or whatever, and there'll be targeted attacks. And obviously the heroes, their locations, to where they live, etc., is probably common knowledge. It's very common knowledge where they're at, where they're sleeping, etc. It's just no way you can hide, like, let's say, a fancy house, etc., from the common eye, and, you know, the media, etc., because we do know that media does exist within the My Hero Academia verse. So, it's very clear that villains would definitely be aware of where, let's say, top heroes are living. And because of that, it always has made me wonder, What happens if a villain gets out of jail, prison, etc., and targets a hero? What happens? Is there some form of protection? Are the heroes left to defend themselves? What necessarily goes on? And it's clear as day that we're finally getting to see some of these answers, or these questions finally answered, correction, my bad. And I'm curious to see where it's going to go. But Endeavor has been put into a situation where, honestly, I don't know what he could personally do. There's so many bad things about this situation that there is no right option. And let me explain. It's not just the fact that a innocent has been taken hostage by Ending, and Endeavor's there in hero mode to save the day. It's the fact that the person taken hostage is his very own flesh and blood, Natsu. Someone that, obviously, Endeavor does care about. It's definitely been revealed for a while now that Endeavor does care about his family in his own way, even if he isn't a perfect father or a perfect man by any means, and I love his character for being flawed. He does care about his family, and he does want to correct the wrongs. He does want to be able to sit down at a dinner table once again, and he does blame himself for a lot of these things. And when you see how, Natsu's taken hostage, this puts Endeavor in a spot, because he's not just a hero, but he's a father in that situation. And let's not lie and kid to ourselves. Endeavor probably cares more about his son's life than an innocent civilian. I know that's messed up to say, but it's the truth. That's just how reality is. That's real life, okay? Let's not try to kid ourselves. So because of that, that puts Endeavor into a little bit more of a emotional stress, because he is in parent mode. If he doesn't do something, his child will die. And this is a villain that will potentially kill his child. Now, here is the only thing that we know of at this time. We do know that Endeavor somehow does know of this villain. He recognizes him, he knows his name, he knows who he is, etc., which could give some leeway to Endeavor being able to talk to the man and be able to save the man, but also save his child. It's the things that I could potentially think could happen. For instance, since Endeavor knows this man, he might be able to make some conversation. Since the man admires him, he might be able to make conversation to where he would let his son go. Whatever may happen, though, I do feel like his eyes bloodshotting like it did at the end of the chapter really kind of says a lot, that Endeavor's under a lot of strain and stress right now, because one wrong move, one wrong play, it's lights out for his son. And there's no coming back from that. No matter what you do, there is no coming back from that. So the question is, what does Endeavor do? Does he try to be a hero and save everybody? Does he say, screw being a hero and attack Ending and try to end his life to save his son? Does he try to just talk with the man and potentially his son dies because of it? What is his options? What is he going to do? Personally, there's no right answer. I mean, obviously, the best right answer would be to save his son, but as a hero, you have an obligation to try to save as many lives as possible and not to let anyone die. It's a very complicated issue. And I feel like this is really going to go to show what type of heroes there really are in society and how do they handle certain situations like this. Because when you think about our today's society, you have it to where, if a police officer is threatened, they can, have self-defense. And usually it's legal. It's completely legal. And I know I'm not going to get into the politics and stuff like that. I'm not getting into that. That's just not something I'm getting into. But the point is that self-defense is legal, because if you're being rushed by someone with a dangerous weapon, you should be able to defend yourself if you're a police officer. And because of that, it makes you wonder, can heroes do the same? Do heroes have that same obligation? Can they actually do self-defense and take a person's life? I mean, we do know for a fact that All Might has done this at the very least once in the past, and that was with All For One, obviously. If you remember the whole conversation between All Might and All For One, All Might legitimately was going in to kill All For One. He tried to beat his face in. He was definitely trying to end the man permanently where he would never get up again. Obviously, it did not work out, but All Might definitely went into that fight trying to kill All For One. He did not just try to capture him. That was never All Might's objective whatsoever. So we do know that heroes do resort to killing, but obviously All Might's situation was a very complicated situation, because it wasn't necessarily about All Might trying to just capture a regular villain on the street. It was more of an ultimate evil, but also a villain that killed his teacher. So it was more of revenge, vengeance, etc. So it's kind of different. However, Endeavor's situation is very distinct, because now, big options. What does he choose? Does he save his son? Does he talk to the man? Does he kill the man to save his son? And he has individuals behind him. You know, he has Todoroki, Bakugo, Izuku, and even Natsu watching right now on what could potentially happen. For instance, one move Endeavor does will determine how the others view him. And if Endeavor takes the man's life, obviously Izuku, Bakugo, and Todoroki and Natsu, they might understand to a certain extent that it was necessary, but at the same time, because of how they feel and how young they are, they might not truly understand it and why it might have been necessary in the first place. So I'm looking forward to, honestly, where Horikoshi wants to take it. It's a really complex issue, and I cannot wait to see what type of development Endeavor goes through because of the situation. So, let's talk about the ending, but also the earlier stuff of the chapter. So, ending, as a character, his design, love it. Love his design. He, apparently, from what I could see from the brief scenes we saw of him within the chapter, he's able to control, like, road lanes. Like, if you know the road lanes, like the things on the road, that's what it looked like. It looked like he was able to control those and move those around to be able to manipulate and capture people. That's what he was using against Natsu. And that's kind of strong, but not too strong. But it's a really unique power, and I really do like how unique that is and how Horikoshi kind of showcased that. And another thing I do want to point out is that Ending apparently was able to use a quirk-enhancing drug. I don't know if you noticed that as well, but there's a brief scene at the beginning of the chapter to where you see the man putting something on his neck. And it's clear that this must represent the quirk-enhancing drug to make you super powerful, which would explain why his quirk just seemed very strong in that moment. He does really have good control of his quirk, but it seems like he might be enhancing it to some extent, and that's what was happening at the beginning of the chapter. He was just prepping for the right moment. So, yeah, it's interesting to see some of these details carrying over, and I feel like maybe the reason why Horikoshi wanted to use the quirk-enhancing drug again was probably because the latest arc in the anime is kind of getting back into that stuff. It kind of makes sense, honestly, you know, the correlation between the two. So, Ending, apparently, he's someone that, like I've already briefly discussed at the beginning of this episode review, or chapter review, my bad, I don't know, it's a habit. He is trying to end his life through Endeavor, and the reason why is because a long time ago he saw Endeavor capture someone, and basically he was inspired by Endeavor to kind of be a better person. You know, he felt like there was much more for him. And then eventually he realized that, you know, he wasn't going anywhere, nothing really good for him was happening, and he became basically a villain. Endeavor captured him, threw him in prison, and as soon as the man got out, he investigated, researched Endeavor, and now we know the rest, where he's at right now. So it's clear that the individual is mentally unstable to a large extent. He's mentally unstable, and he's someone that obviously was inspired but then lost his way, and now he's just taking it out on Endeavor because Endeavor's the only one that, you know, technically he would allow to kill him. So he's choosing Endeavor as his way out. So yeah, Ending is a very different character. It's a very dark character, and I'm curious to see where his situation, or how his situation is going to go, and how Horikoshi is going to handle it. But I want to kind of wrap up this video here, though. It's a good chapter. It's a really good chapter. Love it. It's depressing, and Horikoshi's really getting into an interesting theme right here. I'm curious where it's going to go. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, you know, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below. And with that, Chibi out.